So I'm really pleased to be talking to Karen Salmon from Marlborough Law this morning. Thank you, Karen, for taking some time out of what I know is a very busy time for you at the moment. Could you just reassure us how your kind of work and the whole legal system is coping with having to work remotely?
The current situation with the courts they are working incredibly hard. Out of the 300 odd courts in the UK, about I think it's 160 are still open at the moment. They're still hearing the cases where it's not possible to do it by telephone, and that will include the criminal cases. It will include some family cases where witnesses have to be involved, and it does include domestic violence cases as well. And for the rest of the cases, they're dealing with telephone hearings, and they've matched the system pretty well. If we're invited to a telephone hearing, we have to advise the court of the telephone numbers for counsel, for advocates like myself and clients. And then about 5 minutes before the hearing, the court will call you, and it's an automated service, and it says, would you like to join this hearing? I think you press star one, and then you get into the room. A lot of these hearings are being more judge-led now, so the DJs are taking the lead and they seem to be asking more questions so that we don't have the constant interrupting. There's a very clear message at the beginning of the recording that says you have to confirm that there's nobody else in the room and that you're not recording the hearing, etc., etc. And if they hear somebody in the background that isn't supposed to be in there, they cut you off.
Oh, okay. So it is very well monitored.
Very well monitored, yes.
And is it Zoom? Is there any video, or is it just audio?
Some of the hearings are done by Zoom, but most of them are done by telephone. And what they're also doing is, if there is, for instance, an application for a child arrangements program for a child, they ask whether or not a telephone hearing is really needed, or are both sides in agreement. We had one listed for the 12th of June, I think it was, and they did give us the option of agreeing with the other side so that telephone hearing didn't have to go ahead. We're waiting for the other side to say what they want to say. But just as there are hearings in the court anyway, even if we were in court, there's a lot of negotiation goes between the advocates and the barristers outside, so that we can narrow the issues down for the judges. I was conducting a hearing yesterday in the family court, and there are there's a schedule of allegations, which is way too many allegations to be heard, really. And the judge directed us to, when we come back in the middle of June, to narrow down the issues, because she does not want to hear the 24 allegations going back to 2001. They want to concentrate on what is affecting the children now. And she made it very clear to the parties, to the parents who are online, that they are dealing with matters that concern the children and their well-being, not historical.
Grievances. Yeah.
Exactly. So they're trying to narrow it down. Their listing is exceptionally busy. Southwest Divorce Unit, I speak to them on a regular basis. The judges are still dealing with paperwork. The legal advisors are still accepting petitions, etc. We're doing a lot of e-filing, excuse me, and they're accepting e-filing. And the hold-up really is the fact that there aren't enough administrators in to type up the orders. So
that's the bottleneck.
Yeah, the bottleneck. They've said to me yesterday that there's usually 500 staff down at Southampton. There's 9 in at the moment.
Blimey.
So there's a big typing shelf. But
and this isn't work that people can. This isn't work that people can do from home. They have to go in physically into the courthouse or the.
It is the divorce unit, yeah. Although Swindon is doing really well, at Marlborough Law, we have a very good relationship with the clerks at the family units at Swindon. So and they're working really hard. Their typists are working off-site, so we often get an order or directions from somebody who's actually off-site.
Oh, so they are working from home there?
They are in Swindon, yeah, just not in Southampton.
Okay.
And as I say, they're opening more courts, more. I mean, the situation's changing daily as to what the government is advising and where we can go. They are not having, certainly in Swindon, they're not having face-to-face family hearings in June. Ours has been put back to July, but that may well change. But they seem to be keeping up with things.
Oh, that's good to hear. And it sounds slightly that they're trying to streamline the process. So they're saying just kind of cut to the chase and mediate as much as you can before you actually come to court. Do you find?
Yeah, I mean, the government direction for a long time has been, in fact, if you make an application, you have to sign a form to say that you've tried mediation. There's all sorts of reasons why mediation isn't possible. Risk of hardship, or it's urgent, or there's been a history of violence, but you do have to try and sign up to that, or give a very good reason why you can't sign up to that. Certainly the way I like to work is I prefer to work, I'm not a trained mediator, but I do like to try and negotiate between the parties before we actually issue proceedings, because sometimes it can be just a simple issue that somebody's missed, or hasn't communicated properly to their partner, that we could pick up on, and it gets resolved.
So much. I mean, family law is obviously all about relationships, and communication is key to that. And if you can help a couple communicate, then they might be able to resolve a lot of the issues together themselves. So it's quite a personal, role that you play in that.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's probably because I'm, in my early 50s, Paddy, that I've done a lot of negotiating and communication in my time. But I think it is difficult when relationships break down, and that's why solicitors, we always hear one story, and it's he said, she said. And I have quite a good relationship with quite a few of the solicitors in the area, and my client said this, your client said that. Okay, well, what did your client really mean? Well, my client really meant this. Okay. Now we've got the crux of it.
Yeah. So obviously domestic violence is a big concern at the moment. It's in the news. Is this something that you deal with in your practice?
We get a lot of calls about domestic violence because we're a family solicitor. We don't litigate for domestic violence because we're not legal aid solicitors, and people that can have confirmed domestic violence case can get legal aid. So we tend to direct them to legal aid solicitors that we know that I think would be the best fit, and that we can work with or help. But yes, we do get a lot of calls. My previous trustee role at Swindon Women's Aid, so we do get quite a few calls. I must say though, we haven't had as many calls as I thought we would have, purely because I think everybody's in the same house at the moment, so it's very difficult to make a phone call. And what we're finding at the moment is there's a lot of what's called tech abuse. The tech abuse is where the perpetrator, and bearing in mind, Penny, perpetrators can be women and men, and also teenage adolescents, as you and I have discussed. So there's 3 types of domestic abuse: women abusing men, men abusing women, adolescents abusing family members. So it's at the moment, as I say, with tech abuse, it's such things as putting something on your phone saying, find my phone on your phone. So if your partner says, "Oh, just find my phone on your phone," so in case, for safety, that's the trying to work out where you are. Things like checking your passwords, or asking you about a conversation that you may have had on WhatsApp on your computer, that when he wasn't in the room or she wasn't in the room, so you know that they're listening or looking at you at the thing. So there's, I think with people working at home, there'll be a lot more of this tech abuse going on. But also, people can't pick up the phone. If they go out for an hour, the abuser's going to say, well, where are you going, and why are you going for a walk, or I'll come with you. So they don't have the opportunity to actually pick up the phone and make the call. So I think we will get more referrals. I think people are becoming a bit more aware, and certainly I know in your subscription and your post, you're saying to people, have a look and watch people in queues. If their head is down, if they don't have, if they've maybe got a mark on them, or they're not making eye contact with anybody, just say, are you okay? Or, you know, are you having a bad day? So I think there'll be a few more of those.
But then if you do that, if you pluck up the courage to do it, and then they say, no, I'm not, what do you then say? That's the key thing.
The first thing to do is, if somebody says to you, I'm not okay, have a look around to see who's around that person.
Okay.
Because if the person in front is the perpetrator, then you can't really have a full-blown conversation. So that's the first thing to do, is look about who's about, or if there's somebody, if they're darting to watching somebody in the car, then that's another reason not to have full-blown conversation. But just say quietly. You know, there are organisations, dial 999, or get a, you know, send a text to a friend. There are ways you can communicate. Have a safe word, basically.
I know, because I know there are refuge numbers, and I just don't know them off by heart. So it's hard to know. So it's okay to call 999, even if it's...
Yeah, it's okay to call online. The National Abuse Helpline. So it's 08 2000 247.
Okay, 24/7. Okay, 0808 2000 24/7. Okay, I'll try and remember that. Yeah, I know in some parts of the country that they've got things in supermarkets or Boots that there's going to be a room that somebody can, so they can go off and do their shopping, but they know that they can actually be taken into a safe place in a public shop like a supermarket, and then have access to the police or to a refuge call centre. So
I think Boots are pretty good at that. We've had calls, as I say, in my previous history with Swindon. I've actually been on the front desk when there was a call from a lady in Boots to say that she had a lady in her office saying she was abused. So they do, certainly Boots. I can't say for the supermarkets, but certainly I do know Boots have the numbers, and they will take you and, you know, talk to you about your medication. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that's good for people to know. And obviously, when we think of domestic violence, we tend to think of women being the victims, but I know that you've had cases where it's men, and it's actually really hard for them because they don't get the respect from the police. They get slightly ridiculed. Is this a fact that you've been witnessing?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not going to throw statistics at you, but yes, about last year there was 2.4 million reported cases of domestic violence, of which about 700,000 were men. So it is hard, and that's not just physical violence; it's mental violence as well, mental abuse. You know, why are you late home from work? Have you been in the pub? This sort of thing, and that starts a row. And you know, the man sort of backs down and ends up in a row, and ends up with a, you know, fork in your leg or something like that.
Blimey.
So yeah, and it is hard for men, because they're supposed to be the, you know, the rough, tough guys. It's usually the mental abuse with women, because we withhold favours, we don't cook proper dinner, we shout as soon as they come in the door, and it's probably more prevalent at the moment because, you know, the majority of households are the women and children, and the women go to work, and then the children come home, and they're at home with children, and then that man comes in at 6 o'clock, but they're all in the same house at the moment. So it's almost as if the man or the husband, the partner, is invading the space and upsetting the dynamics. And yeah, I know from certainly people in my sphere that somebody said to me, "Oh, he's only been home a week and he's driving me insane."
Yeah.
Because then men don't have any work to do, so they're trying to help out. They're trying to go at the school, and the wife's saying, "I do this all day long, and now you understand what I'm going through." Blah blah blah. So it is difficult right now, and I think cases certainly against men will go up, as well as again with adolescents. They call adolescents 16-year-olds, and there is an initiative now for local authorities to set up what they call local safeguarding boards, and that's to deal with adolescents who have got anger problems or maybe lashing out, and not just men but women, and teenagers seem to be getting bigger. I mean, I've got two girls and they're both taller than me now. Not that they could try anything like that, but teenagers are getting bigger, and they're getting frustrated because they're locked in, they can't go and see their friends, they're being made to do schoolwork. Some of the 17-year-olds are worried because they don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to do the GCSEs? Are they going to do their A-levels? What about the uni places? You can just imagine it. And so I think cases of certainly adolescence violence against family will go up as well.
And if they're a minor, what's the legal age for responsibility?
13.
Sorry?
13.
13. Blimey. Okay, so once they hit 13, they're not their parents' responsibility anymore. They're responsible for their own actions. They
can be well, not prosecuted, but yeah, they can be cautioned, etc.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's the same in the family court. When we have cases, the judges sometimes listen to. You have to make a judgment call about the maturity of an 11-year-old or a 13-year-old. Some are, some aren't. The family court has to make that decision. But certainly, when it comes to domestic violence, they are seeing more, 15, 14-year-olds, that want to go out.
Yeah.
Right now, you can't.
Yeah.
And it's not just teenagers, who have maybe mental health problems or conditions or on the spectrum, etc. The whole COVID situation is making people a little bit stir crazy. And if you've got a 16-year-old that's usually out at school, then with his friends after school, or out on his bike or whatever, and can't do any of those right now, with no end in sight, they are going to get frustrated with life.
Definitely. So besides the family court, for family law side to your work, you do work for corporate law for businesses. How's that going at the moment? Because obviously there's probably a lot of businesses struggling to pay bills or getting bills paid.
Yeah, there are. In my previous chat with you online, we discussed late payments and small claims, and trying to spread the money around. Again, it's down to communication. If you shut off all communication and say we can't pay your bill, that doesn't really work. We have been helping quite a lot of small businesses negotiate with other people about money and get claims in. Although this morning I did have to write 2 pre-action letters to say, you haven't come back with the correct information, so I'm afraid we're going to have to do small claims. Things like agreements, people are looking at a bit more now, supplier agreements, because some people in the past have signed maybe 1-2 year agreements. Now they want to reduce their overheads and cut down on spending, so they're asking us to look at contracts they've got into. Quite a lot of software companies, and to be honest, Marlborough Law is one of them. We've looked at changing our software recently because it's not compatible with some of the work that we're doing, and we've had to look again at our contract to see if we can get out of it. So it's not just the builders, etc. in this world that do it's firms as well. So we've been doing a lot of that, a lot of negotiating on people's behalf, and basically helping people just come up with ideas of what they can do to go forward, and how they can negotiate with suppliers and customers as well, and keep customers, and how they can work like that. And then obviously we don't do finance, but the Hungerford office as an accountant in there as well, and he's been helping people do their applications for grants and furloughing, etc., etc.
It's a lot of new stuff for people to deal with. I mean, you might be brilliant at running your business, but when something comes along like this, and it's skills that none of us have, and it's being adaptable, really, isn't it? It's the key.
It's difficult, yeah, because you might be the most fantastic plumber in the world and do amazing bathrooms, but you just don't like paperwork. That's just the way it is. And you don't have to do cash to get grants and things from the government. They're asking for cash flow projections and things like that. And a lot of people just don't know what that is. And it is quite difficult. So, as I say, Claritas have been helping with that as well. Again, with the mortgage holidays, a lot of people are asking, should I take a mortgage holiday? Well, then, have a think about it. You still have to pay that.
It's only a deferral.
Yeah. A lot of this stuff is just a deferral. Even the loan, although it's a very good loan the government have offered for small businesses, up to 50,000. You don't pay anything back in the first year. You still have to pay it back eventually. And I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a concern. There's a lot of people getting these loans, and then they'll just go declare bankruptcy. Yeah.
It is difficult. So we're dealing with that as well. But we're getting through it. So and the courts and the e-filing, it makes it a lot easier.
Okay. So do you think there'll be some new things that have come out of this that will actually prove to be beneficial to the legal process, that will be kept in place, do you think?
I think they'll probably do more of the telephone hearings for the minor issues and directions appointments. A lot of the time at court is spent negotiating, going between one interview room and the other interview room and taking instructions and going back. I think they will use that as a streamlining, sorry, because a lot of directions hearings or first appointments literally take about an hour, and that's the end of it. So I think they will streamline a lot of that.
Okay, so that might save some costs for them.
It'll save some costs for clients as well, because although you're on the telephone, you don't have travelling time and the waiting time. Because before the lockdown, that certainly the family court in Swindon was exceptionally busy. If you go there on a Thursday and Friday, it was a lot of local authority cases, and the place was packed. And judges sometimes had 2 or 3 hearings listed at the same time. How they did that, I don't know. And they spent the whole day juggling, and you just had to wait till your turn came up. So that used to be frustrating. So I'm hoping that they will use this experience to streamline that. Certainly, we will be, when we make our applications, there will be certain applications that we will ask telephone hearings now.
Interesting. Yeah, good. Well, there is a silver lining to this cloud, I think, and it's going with we've all been kind of pushed out of our comfort zone into new territory, but some of that new territory is actually quite beneficial. So
I definitely think so. I think also people are more willing to negotiate with each other. And the old saying on the television is, people, let's hope when it's all over, people be a lot nicer to each other. I'm hoping that stays the case. It's a difficult situation. I said to my family at the weekend, it's not a situation I ever thought they would be in my lifetime. And it is frightening for a lot of people. But I think, you're right, there are a lot of good things that will come out of it now. And I'm hoping that negotiation and communication, whether it's on Zoom or even just picking up the telephone or even writing letters. I believe more people are writing letters to each other now.
Remember that?
Maybe that will carry on and make my job a little bit easier.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are. And just quickly, how people can contact you if they want any advice on anything.
Well, Marlborough Law office, that number is Marlborough 01672 552 552, or I'm based in Hungerford, which is 01488 508 008, or look us up on Facebook or the web and just send us a message. Okay.
And do you do a kind of free consultation call to start with?
We do a free. We used to set it at 30 minutes, but at the moment it's going a lot more than 30 minutes. We're not the kind of solicitors to put the clock on when the phone rings. So,
okay.
Yeah, the first call is always free, and we work out. Some people get the answer in the 30 minutes and don't need us. Some people have a think and come back.
Okay.
Certainly, yeah. First phone call is always free.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Penny.